So without going too far into the other types of yoga, the other paths to God, we'll come back to what we know within Raja Yoga and Hatha Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, the 8-limbed path. All of this just to say that yoga is not simply an exercise. It's not even simply breathing or meditating. It's not even a combination of those things. Yoga starts with the Niyamas, the social moral codes, the Yamas, personal moral codes, Asana, the seats, postures, which is what we think we know yoga to be. Pranayama, breath control of the breath. Pratyahara, withdrawal of the senses. Dharana, single point focus. Dhyana, meditation. And Samadhi is bliss, and also called nirvana or enlightenment. So although these are sequential, doesn't necessarily mean that you can't practice or attain one before mastering the others. But it is kind of sequential in as you mature, be that in age or on the path to God. You go through these steps of first learning the social moral codes and how you interact with people. The social moral codes, there's 5 of them. First, ahimsa, non-harm, non-violence. It's first, and therefore most important because it gets carried throughout all of the rest of the pillars. So first and foremost, do no harm. If nothing else, if you learn nothing else, take nothing else, do no harm. And that can mean non-harm to others, physically, not injuring people. It can mean not injuring other beings, animals. It's not so extreme as do not ever ruin any living form ever. Like, do not ever pick plants. It's not that extreme. It's more of the intention behind it. If you're walking through a forest and just haphazardly slashing at tree trunks for no reason, that's harming, and that's violence. But if you're going, particularly looking for a certain plant or a certain herbal flower or something that's taken not in excess and sustainably, it's not harmful. It's the intention. That non-violence carries into thoughts, not only thoughts about others, but thoughts about yourself. Non-violence in things that you absorb, things that you watch, participate in. Satya comes next. Satya is truth. Tell the truth to others. Tell the truth to yourself. Inquire about your own truth and live that out. Asteya, non-stealing. Don't steal from others. Don't steal others' property, others' ideas. Don't steal others' time. Bramacharya is the middle road. It's conservation of energy. Some yogis practice bramacharya as celibacy because it's thought that the semen contains this vital energy they didn't want to waste, so they would retain it and in that way conserve their life force energy and practice bramacharya. I think of it more as knowing when your plate is full. Aparigraha is non-attachment, non-grasping. This is the main concept of Buddhism. And you can hear that many of these other pillars and sub-pillars resonate with Buddhism. It's because Buddhism is a branch off of Hinduism. And so these first two of the 8 pillars are actually shared between Hinduism and Buddhism. And then the Niyamas, the personal moral codes, first is saucha, it's purity or cleanliness, being physically clean, especially when you're practicing yoga. It doesn't feel right to practice yoga after gardening, covered in dirt, soot, even being sweaty. Of course, you're going to get sweaty doing yoga, but there's this purity when you enter. You want to be clean to start. That cleanliness is in preparation of food. Sanitary, cleanly, kind of relates to being healthy. Santosha is contentment. You can see it as a kind of acceptance. Not apathy, but more so a grateful or blissful sense of ease and peace. Not being concerned or flustered by the weather, for example, temperature of a room, how many things you have, what your life situation is, just being content. And that doesn't mean being stagnant, not having goals or aspirations, but in whatever situation you find yourself, there's a way to be happy. And that's santosha. Tapas is the frictional heat of change. Change causing positive force. Tapas is this discipline. Tapas is doing something, might be very hard, and sticking with it because you see the benefit in it in the long run, or even merely for the sense of discipline, which is beneficial. Tapas. Svadhyaya is self-study. It's when you take your time to bring your center of focus internal within yourself, examine yourself, study yourself, work on yourself. Ishvara pranidhana, surrender to a higher force, or faith, or humility. It's giving it up and accepting that there's something else out there higher than you, knows more of what's going on than you. Whatever that is, you can trust, knowing that it guides you to do the right thing at the right time. Ishvara pranidhana. So after you're coming of age and you're learning those principles, then you get into livelihood, adulthood, work, family, stress. It can be hard for the mind to notice itself. And that's where the asanas come in. really, the rest of these pillars are just preparation for the last one. I like to think when you sit to meditate, can't sit very long if it doesn't feel good. If your body's achy, if you're uncomfortable. So these asanas serve to release the body of tension and create this fluidity and flexibility and ease. It allows you to sit still for a long time. And in moving the body, it gives something for the mind to do. So then the mind can start to be still after it's been through this big exercise of putting a lot of attention into the body. Pranayama, the control of the breath, often woven together with asana practice, but really doesn't have to be. Pranayama is yoga for your insides. It's the stretching and releasing tension, the internal body, organs, lymphatics, muscles, every little part, nerves. So if you were to just do pranayama practices, you could say you're harmonizing your body from the inside out. But very often we keep awareness of the breath and certain breathing patterns during the asana practice. Pratyahara, it's a very interesting one, not strongly practiced or like evidently or obviously practiced that often. Pratyahara could be walking over hot coals, swallowing swords, walking through a fire. But doesn't have to be so extreme, so show-offy. Pratyahara, withdraw the senses, simply could be going out on a very cold day, dressing warm, and not thinking about being cold, even though you are. Not thinking about it, not complaining about it, just being. It's a lot more to Pratyahara, but in the text where I've read about it, it's mostly, the man who is sees hot and cold equally, who is not disturbed by the cold or the heat, these kinds of things. Dharana is a step into meditation. So a real meditative state, it's very difficult to just drop into. It kind of takes an entry point, and the entry point is focusing purely on one thing, forgetting everything else. And it's impossible, right? But returning over and over again, beginning again, returning to that one object of focus. Usually we start off with the breath because it's something that we can notice all the time. It's always within us. It's right there. All we have to do is think about it. It's one of the few things that's both voluntary and involuntary in our body, keeping us alive, that we can sense so easily. So we anchor our mind to the breath. Other ways would be staring at a single spot. It could be a candle flame. Thinking about a single thing, like the space between your eyebrows. Single point focus could be single tasking. And after you drop all the distractions away from your mind, you focus on one thing, then you start to drift into the meditation, Dhyana. Really can't describe Dhyana. It's a space and an experience. Samadhi, it's not so much enlightenment in the sense that we as human beings could achieve enlightenment, the way the Buddha attained enlightenment. I see it more of momentary, like flecks of bliss. So we get little bits of it here and there. Moments in your life when you're just struck by, oh my God, this is so beautiful. This is so perfect. Or this feels so good. Those are moments of samadhi. And it's possible, theoretically, to stay in that feeling, that place of being, forever, perpetually, by going through these steps, by going through the 8 pillars of yoga, and really just by like meditating so much. And that would be called enlightenment, when you have that state of bliss and nirvana, and with that comes like an all-knowing and a oneness. So we get little glimpses of it here and there. But I don't really think it's for us earthly beings. At least not in like a single lifetime that we're aware of. So there's so much more to talk about. But I'm getting tired. Next time I want to talk about yogis and what they were like in the ancient times, thousands of years ago. And what that means for what yoga is right now, kind of the evolution of yoga.